Hello, I'm Anthony Hughes. Dorico 5.1 now intelligently plays back fermatas, caesuras, and breath marks. By default, fermatas will extend the written duration of the note they are attached to, and also provide a small gap before resuming the prevailing tempo. These default values are found in Playback options, in the timing category. Here you can choose how much to extend the duration of held notes for each type of fermata. For example, by default, a normal fermata will hold a note for its written duration and half as much again, and also specify how long a gap to leave after that note. Again, 50% of the written duration by default. These values can be overwritten on an individual basis in the Properties panel. Simply select a fermata and set the duration properties. You can also edit the playback of holds and pauses graphically using the key editor. Switch to the tempo editor and you'll see the pause envelope. Reduce the value of the first point to extend the duration of the pause further, and move the second point to set the length of the gap, with a lower value resulting in a longer gap. Lower values mean a slower tempo, and that's what Dorico is doing under the hood, just slowing the tempo right down to give that pause effect. Editing the graphical envelope in the key editor will also update the values in the Properties panel, and vice versa. Where a fermata covers multiple notes with different durations, the hold and gap durations will be applied relative to the shortest note value, and you can see that quite easily in the key editor. You might not always need a gap after a fermata, and for those instances there is a hold-only property that removes the gap, useful for situations such as fermatas under slurs and so on. Conversely, when you set the property to attach a fermata to a bar line, you set only the gap, as there are of course no notes to hold. When you edit a fermata on a rest, the key editor envelope has only one point to modify because you do not need to separate the hold and the gap. Caesuras also play back, and you can edit the length of the gap using the same techniques as fermatas in Playback options, the Properties panel, and the key editor. Breath marks are always a gap of fixed length, calculated as a percentage of a quarter note at 120 beats per minute and set in Playback options. You'll see the effect in the piano roll applied to the played duration of notes, meaning you can easily modify the extent of the gap on a case-by-case basis. If you've made manual adjustments to the played duration of notes, you'll need to use the Reset Playback Overrides command to see the automatic breath mark behavior. If a hold or pause should take effect only on specific passes of a repeat structure, you can make use of the Suppress Playback and Suppress on Passes properties to manage that behavior, or indeed suppress the playback of the fermata, caesura, or breath mark altogether. And that's the playback of holds and pauses in Dorico 5.1. I'm Anthony Hughes. Thanks for watching.